What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of the Elbows Up podcast, the Bottles and Throttles podcast, covering everything short track, racing, open wheel, whole bit, whatever the hell we want to talk about. We talk about what we want to talk about.
Fair point.
Back after a week off, my partner in crime here, Mr. Billy Rowley.
How is everyone doing?
The
Hopefully swell. Hopefully swell. It's been a busy week.
Nobody uses the word swell anymore.
I just used the word swell.
Swole, maybe. Swell, no.
No, swole is for idiots.
Well, I never said it was for smart people. I just said they use it.
Okay, well that seems legitimately fair.
So, we are live right now on twitch.tv/thetunacan79 and twitch.tv/gameofjobes. We are racing 360 non-wing sprint cars at Volusia tonight. And
Why? I really honestly don't know.
Well,
It just sounded right.
I love Volusia on this game. It's a great track on this game.
I think it used to be I hated it, but now it's kind of fun.
No, I love it. I always have. And we're going to be talking racing safety, short track safety, all kinds of stuff here tonight. Of course, we took the week off last week. Basically, the decision was made that it just we weren't comfortable talking about what we're talking about now. This is exactly the show that we wanted to do, and in the wake of the loss of Greg Hodnett, who was tragically killed in an accident a couple weeks back, we didn't feel it was right to do this show yet, and we didn't want to do any other show. Also, I am now set up in my new digs, so it's a heck of a lot easier to do these things. Even the last show, I was away, so the wonderful Greg Wilson and Matt Moore filling in for me. So,
Greg Wilson. He's going to be honored you called him Greg.
Wilson. Well,
Greg's a lot better than Jacob.
That's kind of mean. I do love me some Greg Wilson, who had an excellent run at the Four Crown.
Which
ago.
AJ actually went to a race, people.
Yeah, I did. I had a lot of fun. And I love the Four Crown. And I went Friday night and didn't go Saturday night because I do have a life, and I wanted to actually be able to do other stuff on Saturday. But I went Friday night, and it was a great race. I mean, hell, they had a really damn good race. The track was perfect. Don't tell Robert Ballou I said that.
I honestly, we were talking about that after, and that was the most Eldora-ish Four Crown that I've seen in a very long time, where cars were on the fence and cars were on the bottom, and I mean, it was a good race. I enjoyed it.
Wilson come from what, 18th? 18th to 3rd? Greg Wilson did?
Yeah. Actually, no. Farther back than that, like 22nd or something.
Oh, yeah, it was way back.
But either way, it was a great race. I enjoyed every minute of it. It was a lot of fun.
Brent Marks scoring his first Eldora victory. It was.
Yeah. That was a good moment for him.
And it was a battle. It was a battle between him and another gentleman who I can't remember at this point.
Shoeart.
Okay, it was Shoeart, wasn't it? Okay, so I was gonna say that neither of them had won.
Nope, Shoeart. Yeah, Shoeart.
But
Shoeart's won a couple. He won one at Eldora, I think, last year actually.
Right.
Let's race 2.
What setup are we using? I have the Ronnie Silver Crown setup on this car. Holy crap!
Yeah, you're in trouble if that's your case.
I'm not doing
that. No, don't do that. But no, and then we had the National Open this weekend. It was good to see. It was good to see all the fans come out in support of Greg and support of the PA posse. I tweeted it out that I would probably never ever say it again, but good job. I'm glad to see the posse won. You could definitely tell that Lance was extremely emotional in victory lane, and
it's a cathartic thing, man. They needed it, honestly.
Yeah, and they really did, and I think it brought it lifted the spirits back, and it really helped that Greg's wife was there. I think, and it was good to see all the drivers. A lot of them donate their money back that they won from contingencies and things like that. So, great event. I thought it was actually really quite good race, to be honest with you. I thought it was spectacular. Gio Scelzi dominated the first night and looked like he was getting ready to do it again. And when the track slicked off, it became the old standard 69K. Cardboard Calvin had that gear in there perfect. And those guys are just set up geniuses, man. They do stuff that most people don't, and it's really, really interesting. It's cool to see guys like trying new stuff. Like, and then, I mean, nothing they're doing is really new, so to speak, but it's different. It's outside the box. But it was a good weekend, I thought. It was a good honor to Greg. I'm glad a Posse guy won it. You know, Greg, I think was, I don't want to say that he was underrated, but because everybody knows how great he was, but I think when you look through the history of his career and you see 20 Outlaw wins, 20-something All-Star wins, got to be close to 100 or over 100 Central Pennsylvania wins, not including even like weekly shows outside of there, or even his time, you know, in Memphis. It's sad to see, and actually I was streaming when everything went down and when he had passed, and it was just kind of a surreal moment. It's, you know, you don't really think about you don't think about guys like Brian Clausen, Jason Johnson, and Greg Hodnick getting killed. You don't. And me and AJ have always gone round and round about this, not in a negative way. We just kind of have different opinions on how things are and how they go. I think a good way to start is talking about the rule changes that have come out. Actually, they came out a little bit before Greg's passing, about basically stiffening up the cages, adding extra bars, and adding left front radius rods, or, you know, steel left front radius rods, and all this sort of stuff. And I just kind of looked at them and went, I don't really know if this is the answer.
So is that what we're saying? Is that this was like a failure of a part? That
no, well, and kind of getting into that, I don't want to go, you know, too deep into what's happened, but let's just put it this way. I firmly believe, and I am not saying this based on anything that has actually happened. This has been my theory for years. And, you know, these accidents that we've had this year, and I just want to make that really, really clear that this is not based on that, but I firmly believe that stiffening up the race cars is not the answer, because if you're taking essentially a metal pipe and slamming it into concrete or something hard, it's going to bend. And when you start stiffening everything up, the way that energy works is if you take something that's real stiff and you hit something real hard with it, all that energy has to go somewhere. Your body basically is going to turn to jello at that point, and I'm not a fan of what it is. Now, is that to say that I wouldn't be Flea over at Boss Chassis? He's actually doing some testing with different way that the rear part of the cage is being built, and is actually paying out of his own pocket to get these things tested. I think that's going to be I think that's a better way to go about this, because I looked at a Maxim that was sitting at the foreground with the new safety cage updates and everything else on it. I was not a fan. And the reason that I'm not a fan, the right side, probably okay. The right side's probably okay. But the left side bothers me. And the reason it bothers me is because of the fact that you've now taken the left side of the car to where you've got a lot of room to get out. And if you need to get out in a hurry, you've now, the bottom where the safety cage comes in, you've maybe got 5-6 inches that goes back to the top. The rule is 15 inches from the top of the halo back. So you've got 15 inches there, and then you've got about 6 or 7 at the bottom, maybe. That's not a lot of room, especially for a guy like Dale Blaney. Any of your taller guys, your bigger guys like Schatz, your little guys like Sheldon, David Gravel, Saldana, they're not going to have an issue with it because they climb out of way smaller holes than that now. But I just hope we didn't take a problem and make it worse. When in reality, and this is where me and AJ's argument's going to go, is I think the responsibility for safety belongs on both people, but we got to do something about these racetracks that haven't been updated in years.
Well, hold on. Okay, here's my thought on car updates and adding bars and things like that. I think the biggest problem that we have right now is not a situation where we gear safety to drivers getting out of the cars in a hurry. That's not the biggest problem that we have. And if you get race track safety right, as far as safety teams with fire extinguishers, then that's not a huge problem. If you can make the crash structure stronger to where you are better protecting the driver, I will give up a little bit of time to get you out of the car. That's where the fire suit's supposed to come in. That's where the race, the safety team's supposed to come in. So that's my thought process there.
And I don't necessarily completely disagree with that, but like what I'm getting at more so is we're still racing at tracks that have blunt ass walls facing the racetrack. It is 2018. Put some tires there, or God forbid, pay a couple $1,000s, get a fucking gate built. Get a gate built. Eldora's got one on the backstretch. Granted, they don't open it every damn time a race is going on, but as a fan, I would rather sit in the grandstands for an extra half an hour a night while they circle the racetrack waiting for the gate to open.
Well,
that's because, between that and then unsafe catch fences, unsafe walls, we've got, catch fences that are behind the concrete wall. That shit has to stop. We've got concrete, you got fences that are behind a guardrail. That shit's got to stop. The fence needs to be equal with the damn wall. And when you're equal with the wall, then you're not going to hit the wall on the top of the cage. You're not going to, everything is just better at that point. And we in the drivers, and I said it the night that I went on a rant about this, that drivers have to stand up for what's right. If you see a track that's putting tons and tons of money into the facility, making cleaner restrooms or better restrooms and better concession stands and better seating and everything else, then there is zero reason that they can't make the racetrack safer. Zero.
Okay.
Zero.
Now, I don't disagree with you. Okay. I hate the way that racetracks, short tracks around this country have been built to where pit entry and pit exit they're just deadly.
Yes.
Let me talk about the gate at Eldora. We've never really seen that gate tested because of where it's actually positioned. It's positioned really well to where you're not going to hit that very often, okay? But a gate's not going to work at every racetrack. We've talked about the gate at Bristol Motor Speedway, okay? We have seen catastrophic failure from that gate where it makes it more damn dangerous.
I disagree.
Almost. I mean, we've seen guys get entire stock cars get torn in half from contact with that gate and then the wall.
Okay, what would have happened? What would have happened if it was just open?
It's the same damn thing. I mean, it did nothing.
Okay, but we're also talking about a 1,400-pound sprint car, not a 3,500-pound race car.
Okay, but let's talk about.
I'm not saying that what Bristol has is perfect, or what. Hell, Salem's got a gate coming off of 4. A lot of places have a gate like that, or a gating system. Look at Knoxville's.
Well,
Knoxville's, you can't even tell there's a gate. Now, granted, they don't open it every time that a car goes on the racetrack, but there's got to be something that could be built to do that.
Let's talk about those.
Williams Grove on theirs off of 2 put up water barrels. They put up water barrels. Great. That's something. Do something. But to have blunt objects sitting at the racetrack right at the end of the straightaway at the fastest point is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Let's talk about those 1,400-pound sprint cars that you're talking about, because I've been around sprint car racing a long-ass time.
Yep, and we both have.
They didn't used to fucking fall apart like this. They didn't. I'm sorry.
Well,
they did not. Now,
well,
that maybe we're talking about building cars to where they have a little bit of give to them so that you have that energy reduction effect. Okay, I understand that. But they did not used to fall apart like that, like they do today. Now, and part of that is that chase for that 1,400-pound sprint car. You want weight in particular places. You want it to do certain things. And they fucking bend easier than they used to. I'm sorry.
Well, and I also saw something here too. Actually, and Flea posted it. He was doing a chassis repair, and he didn't say which chassis it was, so I have no idea. But he went out, and when he cut this car apart to get a front clip put on it or whatever it may be, the tubing was off. So you had if it was an 095 frame rail, let's say an 095 frame rail, that at one section it's 065 and the other section it's 110. That's unacceptable. Quality can it everywhere in the sport has to do better. Everywhere. Chassis manufacturers have to quality control parts better. They have to quality control their steel better. That could be catastrophic because, yeah, you're talking an 095 piece of tubing or an 098 or whatever you're using. If it's 065 at one point, guess what's going to happen? You've now created a crush zone. And that stuff is what really, really has to stop. Like, it has to.
Well, you talk about racetrack safety, and there's a lot of things that can be done, and we've seen Robert Ballou, we've seen other guys, speak out about this. Here is the crux to that argument, okay? And it sucks. It really sucks. But the fact of the matter is short tracks cannot afford huge safety improvements. They cannot afford big construction projects, or there's a lot of things that they cannot do. When you're talking about fences and all of this different stuff, a lot of tracks operate on such a tight budget that asking them to do these things would mean that they stand a real chance of not being in business, period. And how often do we bitch and complain that racetracks can't stay in business and this isn't working and they don't have enough tracks and all of this stuff, and we praise these racetracks that stay open. And I've heard plenty of damn drivers say, I'm not worried about safety, just keep these places going, give us a place to race. There's all sorts of ways to look at this. There really is. And that's the thing. I don't give a shit what it is. In racing, it's monetary driven.
But my argument to that is this is the same exact bullshit that the sanctioning bodies and the tracks and everything else put that expense, they throw it back onto the race teams. Race teams are on just as much of a shoestring budget as a racetrack. You got a hell of a lot better chance of making $1 running a racetrack than you do running a race car. There's no way in hell you can prove me wrong on that one.
I'm not going to disagree with you there.
But, so basically, okay, you're taking in a case of, let's say, a regional sprint car team. A regional sprint car team that has, let's say, one primary car and a backup car. They've got 1 or 2 engines. Fine. No big deal. Tethers, big deal. Whatever. Tethers are tethers. But that was an added expense. And really, I don't know if it was that big of a deal before. Now they're talking about tethers for tail tanks. So you get in a racetrack or into a race that you got 30 gallons of fuel sitting behind you. Cool. Now it's swinging on the back of your car, beating on a hot brake rotor. Awesome. That's what we need. Well, but it's to keep a fan clear of the stands.
Whatever. That's the big fucking thing, because let's point out what happened. I believe it was 1958 at Le Mans, which actually brought about brought about USAC in general, because AAA got out of racing because a bunch of fans got killed. Watch, a driver gets killed. Okay, it happens. Racing is a dangerous sport. You watch a fan or fans get killed at this point in our sport, watch how fast shit starts closing up. Watch damn quick.
And that's where I have a problem with a lot of things. That's where I have a problem with a lot of things, is that insurance is driving everything. Is it a necessary evil? Absolutely. Does it suck? Absolutely. But what I'm getting at, though, is that we're putting the expense onto these teams of the Sprint Car Safety Council, that they've said, nope, all the chassis manufacturers said that this is great. This is going to fix all the problems. Joe Devin has said on Twitter numerous times that he doesn't agree with the shit, and he builds these cars every day. And you know what? I could be wrong, but I'm not sure I've ever seen a DRC cage collapse. I really haven't. Joe's shit's not the cheapest on the market. It's not. But by God, his shit's safe.
First one I ever saw do it was a Big Max at Eldora. I think it was
Jimmy Stinson, and I'll never forget it. Me and you were sitting there. I will never forget it. And the cage come apart. And
what year was that? Like 04?
Yeah, 04, 05, something like that. You know, but I'm not bashing a chassis manufacturer.
No,
either,
no,
but,
you know they've all done it at this point. We're just saying,
right?
You know, there was a time when this shit didn't happen.
Right, and that's my point, is that the weight limit the weight rule has probably saved a lot of people. Because they were getting stupid light. I mean, there was cars that they were saying were weighing, 1,100 pounds with 1,200 pounds anyway, and no, I mean, that's not good. But my point is that you take a small regional team that's got maybe one complete race car and a backup. They now have to add in the expense of getting those bars put in. They have to go through and throw away every left front radius rod they have to go get new left front radius rods. They have to go get different tethers. That they have to go get all this other shit. That's just, all new Nerf bars. You got to have new Nerf bars. You can't have the 2-post ones anymore. You got to have 3. It's just, there has to be a line where the tracks have to take just as much responsibility as the drivers do. And that's why people are pissed off, is the fact that racing's dangerous. Everybody gets that, but racing's got to be safer, and it's the driver's fucking fault. It's their problem. They have to take care of it. And to me, that's not fair when we're still racing at tracks with blunt walls. We're racing at tracks with shit safety equipment. We're racing at tracks with shit safety workers. We have got to get to the point where that's just not okay. And you know what? I loaded up. I was 14 years old, and it was the last year I ran go-karts. We ran in 1998. We went to a racetrack, and we loaded up because they didn't have an ambulance on site. The place was unsafe. And you know what? Some people may have called me a pussy, but I felt fine about it. We drove 2.5 hours to go to that race. And we didn't get to race that day because I didn't feel comfortable running there. And you know what? Call me a bitch. I don't really care. Now...
okay.
And that's inexcusable. But everybody else stayed to race. I've gone back to the epic cancellation of the USAC midget show at Liberty. What, 10 years ago now? Mm-hmm. Probably.
Yeah.
The reason that I was bitching about that is that the issues that they had, I felt were a little unwarranted. I think that place. I think that was an entirely different deal, other than track safety.
No, I mean, as far as a race short track goes, the safety element there is better than plenty.
Yes, I completely agree, and that's my point. And I'm not saying that it's good. I'm not saying that it's great, but I'm saying that was just as equivalent as any other racetrack that they ran at. And if they didn't feel comfortable running, then they didn't feel comfortable running. So it is what it is. But I just firmly believe that we can't keep racing at tracks that have blunt openings. Atomic Speedway has basically, they even put it on Twitter and Facebook and said, hey, here's the photos of our entry going into 3, which is fucking dangerous, by the way. Completely and utterly dangerous. But they've posted pictures online of going, what do you guys want to see? What do the racers think about, what if we did this? What if we extended the wall all the way down the backstretch? What if we and had it sweeping in? What if we added a ton more hay bales to it, or tires, or water barrels, or whatever? And I don't understand why that can't be a thing. Hell, Chancellor in the chat just said, why not a cable reinforced net over the fans, kind of like baseball field net, but with cables intertwined in it to catch the shit going into the stands? Huh. That ain't that expensive.
Well, I mean, but then the more shit you put in front of the fan's face, then you can't see.
No, it's above their head. They don't even know it's there. It's above their head.
Well, but also, okay, I mean, it's so damn complicated. What do you do? Your favorite pavement track, Anderson Speedway's got one of the fucking worst.
Yep, I agree. I love Anderson Speedway, but they've at least got water barrels sitting up there now.
It's just like, still, I've seen guys plow through every fucking safety feature they put up there, and it's still a hell of a lick.
Oh, I know. Absolutely, it is a hell of a lick. But it dissipates energy. It dissipates energy before it gets to the driver. And I talked to a USAC driver a couple years ago when they were talking about this seat deal. And if you guys don't know, the seats are mandatory now that you have to use a full containment seat. Personally, I'm not a fan. I think that's driver responsibility. That is up to you. If you're comfortable in a standard Kirky with a cage net or with cage nets, great. If you've got to have yourself put in a little cocoon, that's great too. I'm totally fine with it.
I don't.
But and I get that you have to protect you have to protect the drivers from themselves. I hate that mentality, but while I disagree, at least that's fair.
You don't put safety in the hands of the competitors, because the competitors don't have safety at the forefront. I don't care if it's football, I don't care if it's racing.
And I do agree with that.
Don't do that because they will go for a competitive edge over safety every single time.
But my point is this. Why is it always the driver's responsibility? Why is it always the car owner's responsibility? Why can't the World of Outlaws? Why can't USAC? Why can't the All-Stars? Why can't they all go into these racing deals and say, okay, if you want an outlaw date, here's the mandates that we have for our tracks. This has got to happen. You know what? Volusia, they had a problem with their fence a couple years ago. So guess what? They put a bunch of money in and they fixed it. Great. Good job on them. They've made the improvements. They've done what they needed to do. And I'm not a fan of making the car owners foot the bill on all of the, and I'm not going to say unnecessary. Some of it I think is jump the gun. But I don't like the fact that the tracks are the ones that are basically not on the hook for anything. And that maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's a bad opinion. I don't know. But I feel like if we're gonna have to have a serious conversation about safety, it needs to go from driver to car owner to track to series. Those four things are basically the most integral parts of all of it. Well, and that's got to happen. And it's not right now.
The problem is how racing is set up. And racing is set up in this way because they operate on shoestring budgets. That certain people scratch certain people's backs to make sure that the show goes on. Basically, okay. Take a look at how USAC caters to some of these tracks. Okay, I mean if you're not promoting the damn show, you have to kiss the promoter's ass, because if you ain't got anywhere to race, you ain't gonna make any damn money. Okay.
You know what? I would rather run Eldora 50 times a year, because Eldora is probably the safest dirt track in the country.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Baloo's comments with Stewart and things like that. And I like outspoken race car drivers, but at the same time, that's the only fucking place around here, other than Lawrenceburg Speedway, that has a professionally trained safety team. Mm-hmm. I mean, the safety systems are second to none. But here's the thing, I mean, the entire system, I don't care if it's parts, I don't care if it's engines, I don't care what it is, it's set up for the teams and the drivers to have to pay for everything. Why? Because that's just the way it is, and the tracks, they got to be really careful with the tracks, because the tracks might go out of business. We've seen fucking hundreds of them go out of business, and then you lose it forever. It's gone. It don't come back. And the series and everything, it just, the way it's set up, and I'm not saying it's like a damn Ponzi scheme, but
it kind of is.
It's kind of close.
But this is my thing. Like, we always preach about being proactive. Be proactive. Be proactive. It does not take a fucking genius to look at a racetrack and go, that wall's unsafe. That fence is shitty. That wall's unsafe. Fix that. And you know what? The vast majority of this stuff, I'm sorry, just like in racing, what's the number one thing that you see on Facebook when somebody says, who's got the cheapest fire suits? Well, if you can't afford the best, then you don't need to be racing. Well, motherfucker, guess what? If you can't afford to run a safe racetrack, then you shouldn't have a racetrack. And that's my point. I don't give a shit if in Indiana's got 30 racetracks, pavement and dirt, 30 racetracks, and if 15 of them have to close in order to make sure that guys have the safest thing possible, then great. That's my point.
Well,
because I absolutely hate with a bloody passion the be happy you have a place to race. No.
We're just now getting to that in short track racing. What you're talking about, what you talked about, how you said no to racing at a particular track because you didn't feel like it was safe, and you mentioned call me a pussy. Okay, well, okay, that is a mentality that's grown over the years, because we're talking about daredevils that go out and race like this. Okay, and we're now getting to the point to where we're looking at safety as that important factor before, and there's still some guys. We sat here on this show with Connor Daly, and he said, I don't care about my life. I don't care about safety. He said that's part of what makes it good to me. And there's plenty of guys that will say that. They'll say, I don't care how safe the track is, I'm going to go out there and race.
Well, and I get that, because I still believe in what Gary Bettenhausen said of when somebody asked, when are you going to retire? And he said, I'll quit when these sumbitches in the stands think they can come down here and do my job. Whether anybody likes to admit it or not, racing is a dangerous sport, and people like it because it's dangerous. There is not one person on this planet that wants to see somebody killed, that wants to see somebody hurt, that wants to see somebody maimed. There is nobody that wants to see that. But damn it, there is nobody that would go watch auto. The reason why, how come millions of people aren't watching iRacing? The reason millions of people ain't watching iRacing is there's no human element. There's no danger to it. It's a video game. But when you take the element that's in there, that's the key, is that people have to realize that racing is dangerous, but there's no reason why we can't try to make it safer. And I just don't think that adding all the bullshit onto the race cars at everybody else's expense because 5 guys sitting in a room at Knoxville decided that's what we're going to do. And So you're going to have to put these bars in. Well, I guarantee you, if you go to an outlaw show and had Farmer Fred down the street welded in with a stick welder, they're not going to let you run that. So you're going to have to go to a reputable place to do it, which you should anyway. So guess who's going to be doing a lot of that work? The chassis manufacturer. What better? I mean, it's just, there's so much stuff that I just don't think that it all needs to be put on them. I mean, I don't understand why, you know, Williams Grove put water barrels up in less than a week. They put water barrels up less than a week. It's not that complicated.
I don't know. It's a balancing act. And you know I am the biggest proponent to racing safely.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's just I quit watching IndyCar for safety reasons. I got so pissed off at the Justin Wilson incident because here he is driving along, not even involved in the accident, gets hit in the head and he's killed. You know, I mean, this guy's a husband, a father, and he's gone for no good reason, zero. And the next week, you know, we're racers, so we go racing. The next week, they drive his car across the Golden Gate Bridge as a tribute, you know, in memoriam. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck good does that do? What good does that do? That's a great tribute. You know, that really just, you know, it's almost like Daddy's back, you know. You think about this guy's kid. It frustrated the fuck out of me. And I quit watching IndyCar racing, and I won't watch a goddamn IndyCar race again until they get the damn head systems in place. When they start running with the head systems, I'll start watching again. Formula One did it. They look terrible. They're right down the driver's friggin' face. But guess what? It saved a life this year.
Well, okay, and I do disagree with it, but I don't. I don't know.
Nobody wants to see that crap anymore, okay? Racing got big on its dangerous element. That was part of it. You went to watch the crazy people doing these things because it was a superhuman feat that you were unable to do yourself.
Yes, but that's exactly it.
We don't do fucking circuses anymore, okay? They don't, you know, we don't go to see if the trapeze artist falls off and fucking dies anymore. That's not what it is. The American people are different, and that's part of why racing is on such a shoestring budget. That's part of why NASCAR can't even get people in the damn grandstands, because nobody consumes that sort of entertainment anymore. We don't do Daredevils anymore. And that's the thing. There's plenty of people who watch racing that would be much happier with a completely safe sport because they don't want to go see somebody die. They don't want to see it.
I know. I know, and I get that, and that's more of my point. That's more of my point. Seabass brought up a good point. He said from his understanding, the water barrels were mandated by the World Racing Group and WU. Lernerville, I guess, did the exact same thing days after Greg's accident. And you know what? Bravo. Hey, that's it. That's all I'm asking. If we're going to hold the drivers and the car owners accountable for their safety, the track owners have to do the same damn thing. And if you can't afford $5,000 to put up a gate or to make fence improvements, then you probably shouldn't own a damn racetrack. My personal opinion. So I don't want anything to basically go to the point of guys are not. I don't want it to get to the point, like you said, where nobody's going to races anymore because it's unsafe. But at the same time, we have to do better as a group to make damn sure that this stuff doesn't happen again. It's going to happen again. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And over the last 20 years, we've been pretty damn lucky. We've been extremely lucky.
Is it lucky, or is it, have we taken the necessary steps?
I think it's luck. Because all three incidents, and I say all three, I'm talking about the three high-profile ones in the last 3 or 4 years, were all fluke incidents that, you know, we've talked about. We talked about it, you know, when Clausen passed, that You know, the car is 10 degrees the other way, Brian's probably still with us. You know, if Baps had a gate or something there, is Greg still with us? Is, you know, if there's a fence around Beaver Dam, is it still there? I don't know. You know, it's hard to say if those would have saved it. But by the same token, we have to do better as individuals to stand up for what we think is right. And if you see something at a racetrack that's unsafe, don't get on the internet and start blowing them up and bashing the shit out of them. That's not the right way to do it. But if you go to any track promoter and go, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you ever thought about doing that? You may have inspired them to then go, huh, yeah, I didn't think about that. We probably need to do that. Yeah, we'll have it done by next race. Or, you know, that's a pretty big project. We'll have it done next year. Great. That's what they need to do. And, you know, there's no excuse for it. There's just no excuse anymore for unsafe racetracks. And I'm sick and tired of seeing, you know, I don't know. You know, the whole Baloo thing, I don't agree with what he was bitching about. I don't at all. There's some stuff that he's bitched about that I do agree with, but there's other stuff that I'm like, oh, come the fuck on. Like now you're just bitching to bitch. But at the same time,
Tony Stewart. Sometimes I just hate the guy and want to strangle him, and sometimes I want to pick him up and show him to the world as a great example of exactly who we need. And in this case, it was just, you know, just thank you for being a real person.
Well, but by the same token, though, you can't give Tony that kind of a pass.
I don't know.
Because Tony Stewart made his living being an asshole.
Yeah, but
Tony Stewart made his living by being the world's biggest asshole. Okay? So you can't say, well, you're too big of an asshole. You can't do this anymore. Well, you know what? You made a living doing it. Now, if you guys don't know, I don't know how, if you're paying attention to this, you should know, but Robert Ballou got suspended by USAC for the rest of the remainder of the year for actions detrimental to the sport, which I think is, you know, whatever. But he was also very big word that I think is just, I don't know. The way that it was, a lot of the backlash I think would have gone away if people realized that he's been on probation 3 times in 5 years. They'd had enough. And they've told him to I'm not using USAC's words here. These are my words. But basically, USAC's told him to shut up for 5 years, and he didn't do it. And they said, fine, you're done. And you know what? I don't blame him. I really don't blame him. Do I think that 11 races is kind of harsh? Yeah, a little bit. Especially with the amount of, I mean, a little bit. But I understand where they're coming from. I was trying to get Robert on the show because that just would have been a good time. Still trying to get him. Still trying to get him on, but we'll get there someday. But I just think that the whole, you're gonna call Robert Ballou for being an asshole, and then Tony Stewart shows up and goes, well, you're just being a pissy boy. Well, all right, dickhead. You know, like, the whole thing is just cheap to me. I get that they had to do something. I just don't know if I agree with what they did. Or they should have said, hey, we've given him X amount of chances and he keeps dicking it up. That's not on us anymore. Okay, well, that's fair enough. But on some of the safety stuff, he's got a point. But then the other stuff is he also still runs his head a half inch below the cage. You know, I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. We need to have a cage rule. You know, somebody had said it a long time ago that why don't the standard 2-inch tall cage, why isn't that just the standard one now? Why? We need head clearance. Head clearance would save a lot of issues, I think. If you've got, but belts stretch. So if you've got, let's say, 2.5 inches of head clearance, when you're upside down and your belts hit hard, you might have a half inch, maybe. Belts stretch a lot. So if you can get 4.5 inches out of a cage, guess what? You're going to be a lot safer. A lot safer. And that's easy stuff. That's easy stuff that you can do. But I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer, and I want to really, really bad because I'm sick and tired of people being hurt. But at the same time, we have to hold everybody accountable or nobody accountable. And in my opinion, the tracks are just as accountable as drivers, as car owners, as crew chiefs. You know, ask any race car that I've ever worked on. I bet the rear wheels get tightened 5 or 6 times before we go out on the racetrack. Between me and Clinton, we took care of 3 race cars at 4 Crown, and every single time, both of us knocked rear wheels. Why? Because we wanted to keep Jacob safe. When we go race with Scotty, I know I knocked the wheels, but when we're getting ready to go out, it's like, hey, Kyle, go ahead, double check the rear wheels. You know, because it's, you know, that's what we have to keep doing as a collective group. I mean, we could beat, you know, we've basically beat this horse to death, but I just want everybody to think when you go to a racetrack now, notice what is going on, notice if there's any issues, notice any problem areas, and then when you do that, take them to the track owner, take them to the promoter, take them to the sanctioning body, let them know in a diplomatic manner. That's what I think a lot of people don't realize about Baloo was the fact that it wasn't necessarily the message, it was how he did it. And how he did it was not in the right way, and I'm guilty of that too. A lot of times I'll get on Twitter and just spout my mouth off and then deal with repercussions later. Well, that's the problem. So
well, but sometimes that works. Sometimes that's your only only avenue.
The only times that I've ever done that in the last probably 5 years was when you tell a promoter about something and then they don't listen. It's like, okay, now it's game on.
Yeah.
Like there is a point when you do that, and USAC reached their point, and that's why they did it this way. But I don't know. You know, we've talked for 50 minutes about negative shit, and in reality, sprint car racing is safer now than it's ever been. I really believe that. I think the racing is some of the best it's ever been.
I don't know about that, but I'll agree with you.
Well, but I mean, there's a few things that I would change racing wise, but I think a lot of it's good for the most part. But make sure that when we're winding down at the end of the season, make sure you go out and get those last little bit of racing in, because, and if anybody knows of any non-wing sprint car races that aren't USAC in like a 300-mile radius of Indianapolis, please let me know, because we want to go run the dirt car one more time, and we don't know where to do it at.
What do we got left? The Lawrenceburg race is done.
Lawrenceburg, basically in Indiana, we've got like Fun Fest at Brownstown, and that's about it.
Kokomo, is they're done?
They got the Clash coming up.
That's what I thought, which is the last deal.
Well, yeah, the 6th of October. The 6th of October is All Stars and War. The All Stars and the War series is going to be there for basically their finales, which will be a hell of a show. I just wheeled AJ to deal with it.
Totally.
Anderson Speedway is going to be on Saturday. Really looking forward to that one. There's 29 pavement sprint cars registered for a race that's not the Little 500, but it's in honor of Tony Elliott. Be sure to, if you're not going to Kokomo or if pavement's your fancy, go to Anderson, because the race is going to be badass. The way that they've been doing it the last couple times has been pretty damn cool. Both, I think, are going to be on speed shift, but I'm glad that I am actually, back to Kokomo, glad that Casey Schumann found a replacement Fairbury because Fairbury stepped on their dick and canceled a show and then lied to the fans about it and said, well, it's because the forecast for rain. They canceled it 2 weeks before the event. And then it came out of, well, we didn't know if it would be financially stable. Well, tell me that from the start. Don't lie to me. So, Fairbury, they're on my blacklist. Fairbury's dead to me.
Well, you can't do that too much because then all of a sudden tracks start closing up.
Oh, well, you know what?
In the end, it's up to us fans to keep things going, huh?
Yeah, but don't lie to me. That's all I ask. As a fan, don't lie to me. It took me a couple of years to get over Lawrenceburg's epic rain out for Sprint Week that year. When we showed up and they were like, oh, no, it's canceled. We're like, what? And they were like, yeah, it's raining. I'm like, no, I'm literally standing in the parking lot in shorts and sandals in 80-degree weather and sunny. But it's raining? Nope.
Well, the fact of the matter is Facebook Live is killing short track.
Oh, my God. I almost just crashed because I couldn't tell if you were being serious or not. Like, yeah, like you know what, we're not going to put water barrels or hay bales up on our blunt-ass racetrack, but by God, we're going to pay money to get signs printed that if you use Facebook Live, we're going to throw you out of here.
Correct.
Oh, piss off. That's called promoters that suck. Like, and the promoters that suck and don't get it. Like, that's all that boils down to. Facebook and Twitter have done more to help dirt track racing and short track racing in general than anything else in the last 20 years. At me, folks. I'm not wrong.
Gets short track racing in front of eyes that have never seen it before, and that's the most important thing.
Well, and how many fans has sprint car racing made because of social media? A ton. Josh Hansen, perfect example. For some odd reason, he stumbled across us two idiots like 4 years ago and went, huh, there's a track in Lawrenceburg. I'll go check it out. And he watched a rubbered up shithole and was like, wow, this is way better than NASCAR, and that race was crap. So the more people we can get to short tracks, the better off we'll be, because then, you know, I guess coming full circle, it is up to us, because if we get more people to go to the races, the track promoters have more money. And when the track promoters have more money, they can do more upgrades. We just have to, I just hope they make them in the right areas. And, you know, I just want racing to be safe, but I want everybody to go race. I want everybody to go have fun. And racing is supposed to be fun. You said it best, AJ, that you actually had fun at a racetrack. Great.
It's not always a guarantee, you know. Sometimes you sit in the rain, sometimes you watch a damn push truck longer than you watch the race cars. Sometimes you watch somebody get hurt. Sometimes, you know, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong, but it's still our favorite sport for a reason. And you can say what you want about racing, it's a family. You know, I actually, I took 6 brand new people to their first sprint car race, their first race in general, to the Friday night portion of the Four Crown. Now, one of which was a mother of 3, okay, who's never been to a damn race. Suffers from a bit of anxiety, actually, and you know, just you know, as a mother, you watch your children very closely, and here you are in a strange place where they're out playing, you know, in the grass and things like this. You know, you don't know who's around there. But there's complete comfort when it comes to me, because I know that the people that go to racetracks are good people. You know, you don't worry about your kid getting snatched at a damn racetrack because they're good people, and you get people coming up and saying, "Oh my gosh, are those all your kids? You crazy person!" You know, and it's
I
just
believe
great.
That's exactly what Jacob Wilson said. Was
yeah, you know, it's great. It's great interaction, and it's great people, and when bad things happen, they all come together, and it's not the same in other sports. It just isn't. There's a reason why we love this sport, and there's a reason why, you know, it is how it is. It's just, I don't know, it's not perfect. Sometimes it frustrates the hell out of us, but it's racing, and we love it. It is like family. Sometimes you hate the hell out of family, but there's still blood. You know
God, don't we all? Well, you don't even have to hate family for them. You don't even have to have blood relatives to hate them. I mean, hell, that's just. But No, I think the major takeaway from this, do everything, just be diligent about what's going on, but also as a, this is kind of a do as I say, definitely not as I do type situation. But Twitter and Facebook are great resources, but only if they're used correctly. And when you attack somebody on there, it generally is just, it doesn't work out. And as a group, as society, we're all screwed, but that's a totally different subject. But on Facebook and Twitter, if we can keep civil with everybody, and if we can have open conversation and open dialogue about these issues and about racing in general and have fun, then everybody is much happier. I mean, I go race anymore with people that I know are going to, bring me happiness and bring me joy. And that's what we need to get to. We're always going to have the negative Nancy's. We're always going to have the people that get upset and pissed off about everything. But we're always going to have actual friends that go to the races with us. So go to the races. Go have fun. Enjoy yourself. But don't put all the burden on the race teams. That's all I'm saying. Because that's bullshit.
Well, we're about to our time limit, so it's probably best that we head on out. I'm sitting here trying to chase Billy down in this 40-lap race, which
and he's getting actually his ass beat.
It isn't going to happen because Billy's got a fucking setup and he doesn't share it with his teammate.
I shared. I did before the main. Jeff asked. We had this set up as well. You just decided not to run it, or you sucked. One of the two.
Or you decided not to tell me that it was there. It's not like it gives me a.
Well, I mean, we were recording a show. I didn't want to interrupt.
Right? Yeah, I'm sure. But
that's
exactly
going to be it
for this week. Probably see you next week if there's something to talk about. Hell, give us some feedback on our safety talk. We'll talk about that kind of stuff. If you think we're idiots, tell us we're idiots. Well, that's not really a big surprise to us. So,
no, everybody calls me an idiot anyway.
Maybe,
that's
maybe
nothing
come up
new.
with something better than that.
Well, I think we may have a. I'm working on a couple things. Maybe we might have a pretty decent deal here coming up soon. And actually, too, before we close, I've talked to a couple guys, and we're going to run an iRacing league here over this winter. I got to get dates figured out, but it's going to be after Turkey Night. That way, everybody's back and kind of getting refreshed, and before the Chili Bowl happens, we're going to run basically the old school USAC National Tour. We're going to run pavement sprint cars, and we're going to run dirt sprint cars. So. Probably, I don't know, 9-10 races. AJ might still be. But we're going to have about 10 races and basically have some fun. I'd like to get about 20-25 guys and, just have a good time racing. The pavement sprint cars in this game are a blast. So everybody get those and fill up some lobbies. And AJ, it's been fun. Glad you could make it out of your... how's your hair doing? Is your hair good?
It's a little must, but we'll survive if I don't flip this damn thing.
No, his hair is probably all. Oh no.
He's upside down. Here I come through 3 and 4. He's flipping in front of me, and I'm gonna win the damn race. Look at me go.
It never fails. It never fails. It never fails.
I ain't gonna call it karma, but why not?
It's karma. I was being total dick. That and I was, it's terrible. Terrible.
Perfect note to end the show on. Thanks everybody for all your kind words. The reception of the show's been very good. We hope to continue to do more of this and get everybody involved and have some fun going forward. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for racing with us. And we'll catch you next time.